I have to say, I decided 2 days ago that I was bored with my hair, and so my beard trimmer slipped. Now I don't dare go out in case I get sunburn. The things we do. Hey ho, on with the video. Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings with me, Michael Jicks, the tea-drinking author who's currently without a cup of tea or coffee or anything else. It's rather pathetic, really. I thought it would be interesting today to talk about dominant industry. Why? Well, back last year, I discovered that Cult Pens had this new brand that they were looking at, and I decided to try some of their ink. Why did I decide to try it? Because I saw this version of a shimmering ink on the Cult Pens website, and here it is. It is called Dusk, as you can see. And I was enthralled. Why was I enthralled? Mainly because the bottle was beautiful and the sort of shading and colouring it gave on the swatches just looked appealing. As you can see, it is a shimmering ink. You can see all the particles have settled out down here. And I thought that is really rather beautiful. I loved the bottle. It is very stable. It's surprising, but it has a flattened base, so it will stand upright quite happily. Each of these bottles contains 25 cc's of ink, which is not as much as you'd get in a Diamine big bottle. Those are, I think, 80 cc's normally. And Diamine is a lot cheaper. They're only, well, they're less than £10 for 80 cc's, whereas these are nearer, I think, 15. I will check, actually. Let's go and look. Let's see how much dominant industry inks are compared with Diamine, say. So I'm going to the Cult Pens website because I find that they're jolly useful for the variety of different types of ink from different manufacturers. So here we go, Cult Pens, and we'll look at brands. Diamine inks tend to be £6.25 for an 80ml bottle of standard type ink. If you wanted to go to the little plastic 30ml bottles, then you're looking at £2.45 per ink, which is really very good value. If we go instead to dominant industries, then each of these rather splendid little bottles, a standard ink is about £8. One of their special pearl type inks, which I think is this type of ink with the shimmer in it, that'll set you back £12. I still think that's not too bad. £12 for 25 cc's is fair. So what happened was I bought this lovely bottle of ink and I was enthralled by it. I really like it. Before I started this, about my favourite ink at the time was Earl Grey from Diamine, which is still one of my favourite inks. This is basically an Earl Grey, but with a gorgeous shimmering effect from those particles. So I thought it would be interesting to speak to dominant industry and just see what else they had. And to my not inconsiderable surprise, those delightful people sent me not one or two or even 3 or 4. They sent me more bottles. They sent me 8. And it's taken me all the time through till now to be able to write with all of them and get a sort of assessment on how they compare. So that's what this is about. So here's my opinion of a variety of different inks, just for you. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, first of all, just so you're aware, whenever I do these reviews, I try always to use this, which is a TWSBI, an absolutely delightful, very efficient pen, and it has the great benefit of this rather lovely 1.1mm stub nib, as well as a filling mechanism that is just quick and easy. All you have to do is put it into some ink, press the plunger down, release the plunger, and it sucks ink up. It is that quick and easy. And so I use it for reviews because it's very quick, straightforward, and nice and easy to fill, to empty, to flush through, and that way you get lots of ink. You get lots of ink tested. Now, one thing I should mention is that when you get a nice Dominant Industry ink, it comes in this rather splendid packaging. It looks rather more impressive than it really is. Now, it's a nice cardboard box, and with the cardboard box you get a pipette, which I haven't got here right this minute, and you get a little imitation canvas bag, and apparently a moth. There you go. And then you have your ink in these splendid little bottles, which are just beautiful, I think, and they slide down your desk when you've got a slopey desk like this. Right, so you get really nice packaging, which demonstrates to me that they respect their own product. That, I think, is nice. The lid has this nice logo. I think it's a D for Dominant Industry, but I'm not absolutely certain. These are they're limited edition shimmering type of ink, or this one is. So let's have a look at how these inks work. Now, my usual way is I will do all of my ink tests in this, which is a Goulet Pens Cahier with, I think, 68 GSM paper. And I have been testing inks for quite some little time, as you can tell. And the great thing is, by doing it this way, all of the inks are tested on the same paper. I can check different colours, and then as new inks come through, I can test them here as well. And then I can compare them with other inks which are similar. So these are the main inks that I have from Dominant Industry. And it's a wonderful range of colours. So we've got Lake, which is a sort of greenish tinged turquoise. I would say that under this light, it looks like a very pale teal to an extent. It has nice outlining. It gives a pleasant shading. It's a very nice one. Tanzanite. I understand Tanzanite is one of the rarest materials because you can only find it in Tanzania at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro. I read that yesterday. I don't know where I got that from, but hey ho, Tanzanite. Very dark purple. I thought at first last night when I was doing the writing to test these inks that it might be a very dark blue, but it's definitely a purple, I think, and it's quite an imperial purple. Dusk. I've no idea whether the camera is going to pick this up or not, but Dusk has some of the most fabulous shimmering effects I've seen on any ink from any manufacturer. Absolutely glorious. It is a very pale bluish grey, very, very similar to Earl Grey from Diamine, but it has this wonderful, what's weird is, here it looks like it is probably a silvery sort of shimmer, but actually when you look at it here, it looks more of a bronze or golden shimmer in the writing, and it's just stunning, it's beautiful. Lungo, which I think is named after the Italian coffee, is, I think, quite beautiful. I do love KWZ Honey. Did I show that? Yeah, I did show. KWZ Honey. It's a glorious pale caramel colour. This is a much darker caramel. I would say it's more of a tobacco brown. So it hasn't got the lightness and the yellowness. It's a bit of a reddish tinge to it, I would say. Winter Wood is a much darker brown. It's very similar to Bekagshag, which I tested some months ago. Appealing, I like it. Autumn Forest, on the other hand, I really love. This is another one of those shimmering inks, which Dominant Industry call their, I think they call it their pearl version of ink, but really rather lovely. It's got a bronze glitter on a sort of a greenish background, and I've been trying to think what it reminds me of, and I think mostly it's Alt Goldgrün from Rural und Klingner. Really lovely, but it's less Goldgrün because it's more of a sort of beigeish background than just the green. But again, lovely shading on the ink. Very, very appealing. Leaf green, this is more of a vermilion, I would say. I was really struggling trying to think what I would call this last night. I knew that emerald wasn't the colour I was looking for. It's very much a vermilion and reminds me quite a lot of, I think it's Diamine's Emerald, which is nice, but if I'm going to be honest, I don't really like greens generally. I love Autumn Forest. This sort of colour just doesn't do it for me. Not so impressed. Manchurian Violet, again, rather wonderful. It's a light violet, very nicely balanced, I've said. I think it works extremely well on the paper, but I'm not really a violet user, so no. And then finally, Romanian Red. Well, I love it. This is sort of in between Dragon's Blood and Writer's Blood. I think those are the two correct names. Writer's Blood I know is correct, from Diamine. And it stands out. It's not bright as a crimson from Diamine, but it really does stand out well on the page. And I'm using this a lot now for my editing because it just really does appeal. Now, I thought it'd be interesting, as well as doing a review based on this slightly cream-coloured 68 GSM Tomo River, I thought I'd do some writing on plain white as well. And I thought that was quite interesting. The Tanzanite comes out, I think, darker in appearance on this white paper. Lake comes out a little bit more paler. And very nice. Dusk seems to look a little paler too. It seems darker on the cream. So it's interesting how the different inks react depending on the different types of paper. Lungo seems to be a bit paler. Winter Wood, again, comes across pretty much the same, actually. It's possibly not much difference. It is quite dark in the original. Autumn Forest seems to have a slightly more golden tint to it. It's a lighter tint doesn't seem to be paler, it just seems to be different. Leaf green, very good. Yep, great colour, but nope, not for me. Manchurian violet, which is very nice because it comes across as a paler colour. It's more of a blue than a violet on white paper, I think. And Romanian red, well, I'm not going to say anything nasty about it. I think it's lovely. Looking at the different types of ink, if we look at Lake first of all, it is very much more a pale teal than a straight blue. I would say it's very similar to Diamine's Marine here. Just going to move this. As you can tell, I'm getting into a mess. Diamine's Marine is very similar. Marine has slightly more of an outlining effect, I think, than the Lake, but very effective. Tanzanite, now this is going to be a difficult one, I think. Actually, let's go for the vermilion first. So this dark emerald, oh, it's much darker actually than the one I was expecting. Deep dark green is too dark. Green black is slightly nearer perhaps. Salamander is quite similar, but the leaf green is darker, is more green than salamander. So it's a very difficult one to try to isolate. Umber is close again, but not quite dark enough. So I don't think there's anything to quite compare with leaf green. Let's go back to Tanzanite, see if we can find anything that's about the same there. Nothing there. Eclipse is not too far off. It's not as blue as Tanzanite, but it's not too dissimilar. Got a dog cleaning her paws there. I apologise for the noise. Deep dark purple is getting closer, but the Tanzanite seems to have more of a bluish tinge. So I don't think there's anything much in the Diamine range that competes. Dusk, the nearest thing to that, I'm sure, is going to be Earl Grey, but then that doesn't have the glorious little shimmering effects. Where are we? Arabian Nights, Dominant Industry. This is Earl Grey then, from Diamine, which is slightly darker than Dusk, as you can tell. Dusk is really a rather extraordinary and lovely colour. Lungo, to say as the Italians would. Not quite like that. I don't think I'm going to find anything really. It's sort of similar to sepia. It's a nicer colour. It's a warmer colour than sepia. And winter wood, well, I think that's a Bekagd Hag. Where are we? Let's just check I've got the correct name. Ackermann's Bekagd Hags. Yep. Should be double AG, not that. Yes, very nice. Autumn Forest, I'm not really aware of anything that's even remotely similar to that. Just the only ones I can think of are Rohre und Klingner, but I haven't got anything that compares. The only thing about Autumn Forest is, as I said, it's sort of similar to Altgoldgrün, but it's a little bit more in the sort of brown side than the green side. Anyway, that's my views on these inks. What do I think about them? I really like Tanzanite, bit too dark for me. Love Lake, absolutely adore Lusk. I love Lungo, very fond of Winter Wood. I love Autumn Forest. Romanian Red is ideal for me for doing edits. Manchurian Violet is nice, but I would only use it on white paper. There you go. And so there you go, one interesting selection of different types of ink. I think in glorious little bottles, and some very interesting different colours, and they show different aspects of shading, and also they work differently depending on the type of paper you're using. So fascinating. I'm very grateful to Dominant Industries. Thanks ever so much for sending those through. I'm going to really enjoy using up all those inks. So, thanks a lot for watching. I hope that was interesting. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget you can go down to the bottom and there's a Patreon link, a Buy Me a Coffee, there's a like, there's a share, there's a subscribe, there's a bell button if you want to get notifications of future videos. And in the meantime, because people have said that they really enjoy the puppy videos, here's another puppy video with just dogs behaving badly. I like them. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Speak to you in a week.